What's going on, guys? My name is Triforce Addiction. Welcome back to another COD Mobile video. During my limited time here, I decided to make a few videos, as you guys have already seen on the channel. One was, of course, kind of just updating you guys on what has been going on and why I have been missing for about 7 months, as well as making a video discussing whether or not Call of Duty Mobile should be a universal multi-platform type of game. That one actually did garner some viewership. I was not really expecting that. Honestly, when I came back, I just thought that, making a video wasn't going to really get me any views at all. I thought maybe like the algorithm wouldn't really recognize me anymore since I've been out so long. But no, I mean, I'm doing pretty well for the most part, at least, coming back. And I like the fact that you guys are interested in the videos that I'm making even at this point in time. But yeah, keep in mind, this isn't going to last very long. I do go back to my base, and then around mid-February, I should be back. But in this video, I thought it would be nice to discuss my thoughts on the weapons that were released while I was away from this game. This goes from like the machine pistol all the way to, I guess, the USS-9, because I haven't really expressed my thoughts on those newer weapons as well, even though I started playing a little bit before that. And that's something I normally did every season. I always gave my thoughts on a weapon that would come out that specific season and tell you guys whether or not it was going to be meta, or if it was going to be trash, or somewhere in between. But this video is just going to be one, I guess, mega video of all the weapons that I've grinded for, like, since I've been gone. I'm not going to split them up because I think that would just take too much time to make, so I just recorded footage for just all the guns that I'm going to be reviewing, and that's basically it. By the way, also, the guns I'm reviewing are not in any particular order. I'm just gonna have it based on like what I recorded first. But yeah, anyways, let's actually get to it with the Lag 53. So the Lag 53 was the very first weapon I used the moment I came back to this game, and I think at the time it was actually the newest weapon that was out. And I did hear a lot, and I mean a lot, of negative things about this gun. To the point where a lot of people considered it to be one of the worst, if not the worst, weapon in the entire game. And during the times that I was grinding it, I did kind of understand where people were coming from. It wasn't exactly what I thought it would be, because obviously this gun is based from the FAL in Modern Warfare 2019. And based on my experience with that gun in that version of Call of Duty, it was a lot quicker, it was a lot stronger. It was semi-auto, it wasn't full auto, so the way that they released it in this game was kind of unexpected. First off, obviously, it's on the heavier side. I would say, if anything, it's probably heavier than the Odin. Also, like, I mean, all the attachments don't really help with that situation. If you want to put a 30 or 24 round mag, you're going to lose a lot of movement speed. If you want to use the heavier barrel, you're also going to lose a lot more movement speed than you probably should. And yeah, like, just overall, there's not really a lot of good options with this type of gun. Of course, they made some changes before. I mean, in these previous seasons, making it a little bit faster with movement speed, as well as, putting in less penalties and making one of the barrels, a lot more powerful, specifically the semi-auto barrel. But even then, after all these changes, it still really wasn't enough to make the gun usable in a lot of people's eyes. I mean, yes, it did make it a little bit more comfortable to use, given that it had a little bit more speed, but even then, it's not really enough to compete against, skilled players at all. Of course, this gun is not without its good qualities. There are some qualities that this gun has that would be amazing, but of course, with all the other downsides that it has, it kind of just lets it down completely. But the good qualities are two things. It's the damage, as well as the recoil control. The damage is pretty strong. It's not as great as the Odin in terms of hit multipliers. I mean, I think the Odin's a little bit more generous with that. But I think probably, I guess, the biggest quality is the recoil control. You don't really have to worry about putting attachments to control your recoil, because this thing is pretty much a straight shooter. It doesn't really bounce that much as crazy as the Odin does. I would say, I mean, a potential third good quality is probably the bullet speed over the Odin. It does have higher default bullet speed. I think it's like 850 meters per second. It's around 800. And I think for, like, when you put that barrel, it goes over 1,000. Something that the Odin cannot even do. But other than that, there's not really a lot of positive things to say. Like, again, they made some changes to improve the speed, but I really don't think it was enough. It's still, like, way too slow. I think if anything, if they buffed the strafe speed at the very least, maybe this gun would have a chance, but at the moment, it's just not really worth using right now. The other weapon, I think this was the one that came out the season after I left. This is the machine pistol. Obviously, this is the secondary auto pistol that we do have now. And this is one of those that were able to be put in dual wield, which is something I was kind of happy about. But at the time when I did use it, it wasn't really that great until the buff that it received a little bit after. So I won't lie to you, I did struggle trying to figure out what kind of class setup I was going to use during the entire grind, because this thing was, especially if you do the no attachment challenges, this thing was complete ass because it only had 10 bullets. And not only that, the reload time, even now, is pretty shitty. But the damage that it does deal to players, especially if you use the dual wield, is just, it makes up for it more than enough. Be aware though, in shipment, yeah, it's a little bit more faster paced. So yeah, that little downside of the reload speed is going to be a little bit more noticeable here. But you know, when you have those one-off moments where you need to reload and you don't have time to do so, you could always use this machine pistol and just eliminate the enemy basically instantly. And I think that's what I like most about having a secondary as a pistol rather than having some sort of launcher or something like a lot of people would. It's because, you know, stuff like the Renetti, the Davra, or even this gun, like they're just quick finishers, you know, like they're showstoppers for anyone that's trying to kill you when you don't have any options left. It's kind of used as, I guess, a last resort weapon. And if you're building it, I do recommend just putting the max amount of, I guess, fire rates, because yeah, it's like for some reason, you could put it as fast as you can. Like the damage drop off after you put Akimbo on doesn't really drop anymore. Like there are attachments that will further decrease the, I guess, the hit multipliers, but I don't really see it ever really making too much of a difference. So it's just, you know, running like the rapid fire barrel with like whatever mag that increases the fire rate. I recommend just doing that. Just have maximum fire rate and you'll be fine. So now we move on to currently COD Mobile's, I think, second best weapon, the BP-50. I know a lot of people have so much shit to say about this specific weapon. And this is one of the weapons I actually underestimated. I was, you know, in the middle of like army training, I would kind of keep up with the game. You know, every Sunday we would have phone access for like an hour. So I was able to see like what's been going on with COD Mobile and like what kind of weapons were released. And I heard a lot about the BP-50, but I didn't really know the reason why. I didn't really take the time to research why it was so popular until I actually came face to face against someone that had it. So I will admit, I mean, it was overpowered. I'm not gonna sugarcoat it or anything. As for it being like the most overpowered weapon in COD history, I'm not really that sure. I mean, we've had a lot of close contenders. We had that MX-9. I think the MS-9 was probably the worst one in my personal opinion, and that could just be like just having bad memories of it. But yeah, the BP-50, at least when I played in just regular multiplayer, I didn't really face it too often unless I was going against people in shipment. But yeah, you know, building it out isn't really that complicated. Just, again, much like the machine pistol, just go for like max fire rate. Of course, a lot of people, you know, kind of settle for the maximum silencer. I understand you want to keep yourself off the map, especially in a competitive mode such as ranked. So I see why people do that, but sometimes I just use the rapid fire, I guess the recoil booster, and I just call it a day. It's really that easy to build out this gun. If you think about it, there's not really a wrong way to build this one out. This is basically one of the most dummy-proof weapons in this game in terms of gunfighting. Like, if you consistently lose gunfights when you're using this gun, I really don't know what to tell you. If you do lose gunfights, 100% of the time, it's entirely your fault. It was since nerfed from what I heard. People run the 30-round mag now, and they don't run the recoil booster or the Leroy. Well, I think they still run the Leroy barrel, but yeah, it's still pretty powerful today. Of course, I think the USS-9 kind of like took its place for now, so we're gonna kind of see how this gun is gonna fare against others in the future. Now we move on to the most recent release for this game, and that of course is the RAAL MG. So a lot of people were taking it back to how slow this thing was going to be. And I understand. I mean, most of the guns that get released nowadays are pretty fast. But this time around, I guess they kind of switched back to the old COD Mobile where everything was super slow. I don't know if you guys remember back in the day when the LMGs, at least when the Gunsmith first came out, the chopper was like one of the slowest weapons in the game. You know, I think Parker the Slayer actually made a video on how slow it actually was, or I think he made like a ultimate slow build with it, and like he could barely even lift it up. It would take like a whole like 5 seconds. Yeah, this gun is kind of like that. But what do I personally think of this gun? Of course, you guys probably want to know what it is. And I won't lie to you, it's actually a pretty good gun. All right, guys, all right, relax. Just let me explain why I think it's a good gun. So I do understand that the weapon is extremely slow no matter how you try to build it out. But keep in mind the hipfire accuracy is what kind of makes up for it, because I know a lot of you guys out there probably fire your weapons as you're aiming down your sights. That works specifically well with this type of gun. And not only that, it kind of rivals the PKM's damage potential as well. Actually, this thing has a lot more range than the PKM. And not only that, it has a lot more 3-shot potential as well. Does it make it the perfect LMG? Of course not. It does have high bullet impact as well, but again, far from perfect. This gun still does need a lot of work, especially when it comes to the speed department. But in terms of damage and firepower, and I guess how generous the attachments are, you know, they're not going to slow you too down on an already slow weapon. You know, most of the attachments don't have any serious downsides. You know, you're not getting a minus 15% ADS time for using the heaviest barrel. And even if you do use that lighter barrel that actually reduces your bullet speed down to, I think, like 700 meters per second, it's still a very, very good option, as you are seeing right now in this gameplay. The other criticisms that I do have is probably, again, has, I guess, something to do with speed as well. You know, with the 50-round mag that this thing does have, they could make the reload time a little bit faster because it just reloads around the same time, and also drastically improve the ADS speed as well when you're using this option. Other than that, the RAW MG might actually be headed in a right direction once it starts receiving a lot more changes. Of course, this is only its first season that it's been out, so yeah, I'm going to cut them some slack, obviously. And if anything, it is kind of refreshing to see as well to finally have a gun released in this game that actually is a little bit challenging. I know the Lag 53 is challenging, but this is something different. So, of course, the next weapon that I do have to review as well is the the Type 63. So the Type 63 is, for the first time in a while, a new marksman rifle that has made it into the game. It's been around maybe 3 to 4 years, maybe about 3.5 years at most since we have gotten a marksman rifle. But this is basically, I guess, the Cold War version of the SKS. The weapons are more or less very similar in terms of how they look if you compare them both side by side. They function more or less the same way. I would say that maybe the Type 63 might have a little bit better mobility. But other than that, like, they're more or less just carbon copies of each other. It's not really much to say there. Even when you see YouTubers like Ferg or Bobby Plays or maybe Path.exe like talking about the next top 10 weapons, this is usually put side by side with the SKS anyways, meaning that they're basically interchangeable. It's all about personal preference at that point. As for my personal experience with the weapon, I mean, I had a pretty good time grinding it out. It wasn't really that hard to use. This is, again, one of my last resort types of weapons. You know, if there's a room full of campers, then I'll kind of just use this to, I guess, take them out of their camping spot. But other than that, I don't really use it that often. So now finally moving on to the last weapon that I do need to review is also the ISO. So this one, I haven't really seen a lot of good or bad opinions of this weapon. If anything, this weapon's just kind of like existing, and that's basically it. That might be for a good reason. The only real criticism I really see with this gun is probably just the normal iron sight, but of course with me, I haven't really picked up any skins for it. so I'm just kind of just using a red dot sight. There's no real need for any other attachments. The gun kills rather fast, probably faster than a lot of people would like to admit. You know, it's kind of sad that a lot of people don't want to use this gun. It does have some pretty good potential, and recently it did receive a buff to, I think it's silencer barrel, giving it more bullet speed as well as more range, making it a lot more lethal in close to mid ranges. If anything, it reminds me of the QQ9 without the 10mm rounds, just, you know, the normal one with the faster fire rate. This one does seem a lot better because, I mean, you don't really get penalized too heavily for using the largest magazine for this gun, but, you know, I think, I don't know, I think this is probably just kind of like taking its place for the QQ9 because I know everyone at this point pretty much uses those 30 rounds. Do I see this weapon being meta in the future? I mean, anything's possible. There's weapons that have completely sucked in the past few years and then suddenly they get like a massive buff, making them very close to meta, if not meta. But for the ISO, I mean, it could get there. It just needs a little bit more work. So there you have it, guys. Those are basically all of the guns that that needed reviewing that I missed during basic training, and just the ones that I haven't really been able to review since, you know, haven't really been at home. But now that I do have the chance, I'm glad that I was able to make this video. Hope you guys enjoy it so much. And yeah, it didn't really take too long to grind these things out. I was probably doing shipment for maybe about a week or two in AIT, and then like I was able to just go about my merry way. Hopefully I'll be back home in time to review the XM4 for next season. If not, then I mean, I'll probably still review it anyways, but just make a late review video. But yeah, anyways, I hope you guys have a wonderful day. Make sure to leave a like, make sure to subscribe for some more COD Mobile content. I'll see you guys next time.